To everyone who's been suspicious of Pfizer's delay in announcing their new vaccine, waiting until 6 days after the election, although they reportedly knew in October, and even telling Biden's people about it first, here's some information about a Biden-Pfizer connection. It might go a long way towards explaining that. It's in a report about a so-called charity called the Biden Cancer Initiative. Now, I say so-called because of the millions of dollars received, this charity gave out zero grants, and spent zero money on cancer research. The New York Post reports that in 2016, a man named Greg Simon was the executive in charge of Obama's Cancer Moonshot Task Force. That was shortly before this healthcare lobbyist went to work for the Biden organization, where he did very well for himself. Simon was paid $429,850 in fiscal year 2018, which was almost twice what he made the year before. Wonder what he did to deserve that kind of a raise. Well, the Biden Cancer Initiative spent most of its donations on salaries and, let me stress, gave out no research grants. When asked about this, Simon defended it, saying the main point of the charity was not to give out grants, that its goal was to find ways to accelerate treatment for all, regardless of their economic or cultural backgrounds. Oh, I see. He's saying its goal centered around identity politics and access to treatment, not fighting cancer per se. Simon might want to look at the stated goals of the organization, which are to, quote, develop and drive implementation of solutions to implement progress in cancer prevention, detection, diagnosis, research, and care, and to reduce disparities in cancer outcomes, end quote. That last thing, reduce disparities in cancer outcomes, refers to the more identity politics aspect of the organization. But what about the research and all those other goals? Are they just there to implement the implementation? I'll bet people who donated to the Biden Cancer Initiative probably thought their money was going to fund research grants or treatment. But here's how this possibly ties into Pfizer choosing to delay its announcement until after the election. Greg Simon is a former top executive for, wait for it, Pfizer. Does it smell like swamp yet? Pfizer took federal money to be part of President Trump's Operation Warp Speed. This was so they could create a vaccine as soon as humanly possible, and then when it said it had one, they initially even denied that it was part of that project. Later, of course, they had to correct that because they were a part of Operation Warp Speed. Incidentally, when Joe Biden tweeted the congratulations to the, quote, brilliant women and men who produced this breakthrough and the frontline workers who are still confronting the virus around the clock, end quote, he failed to give any credit whatsoever to President Trump. The goal is no doubt to have President Trump written out of the narrative entirely. Now, I hesitate to criticize something called the Biden Cancer Initiative, especially since it reportedly was inspired by the death of Joe Biden's son, Beau, from brain cancer, and because it has also been reported that Simon himself is a cancer survivor. But one doesn't have to look very far to see how political Biden's charity really was. Millions taken in, millions paid out in salaries and travel expenses, with absolutely no money given out in grants or treatment or other forms that supposedly the charity was created to do. The man in charge, a longtime healthcare lobbyist, as described in the New York Post, making close to $500,000 in one fiscal year. Greg Simon goes way back with the Democrat Party. He was chief domestic policy advisor to Al Gore from 1993 to 1997. Wikipedia describes him as an American political aide who supported Joe Biden and Al Gore. His private sector work is concentrated in the pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and telecommunications sectors. He was on the Obama-Biden transition team, then joined Pfizer as a senior vice president in charge of policy and patient advocacy. According to Techonomy.com, Simon was also the lead staffer for the Clinton-Gore administration for the development and passage of the Telecommunications Reform Act of 1996, as well as development of the national and global information infrastructure. Hey, maybe he helped Al Gore invent the internet. Well, before joining Pfizer, he represented Gore on the National Economic Council, helped negotiate the U.S.-Russia agreement on the International Space Station, and oversaw a number of key programs. Would it surprise anyone that in the weeks leading up to the Trump-Biden election, a company that had just developed a vaccine effective against COVID-19 with money from President Trump's initiative might have actually delayed announcing it until 6 days after the election? Especially if someone very tightly connected with this company was a highly political supporter of the Democratic Party, and specifically Biden for president. Anyone at all? There can be little doubt that the announcement of a vaccine before the election would have garnered Trump some thankful votes for the fulfillment of a major promise. Look, I certainly get the impression that some people associated with Pfizer assumed it might. We'll never know for sure. But you may recall a recent survey that said 36% of Biden voters didn't know about his and Hunter's business dealings with China before the election. And if they had, 13% of them, 4.6% of Biden's total, said they wouldn't have voted for him. Assuming current projections hold, God forbid, that's enough to change the outcome of the election. Well, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed that video, please consider subscribing to the channel below and clicking the notification bell. Please leave a like and a comment, and share this video as well if you really enjoyed it. Now, if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's completely free. And that's it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.